I'm Brooke Tyler, and I have multiple businesses. I would say I really run three businesses. This is the studio, Classique Acupuncture and Pilates Studio in Asheville, North Carolina. And I opened Classique in 2009. And like we had messaged about, that really evolved from being me and 500 square feet to a 4,500 square foot building and 12 women working for me.
Yes.
And it's been a really cool process of growth, and I'm happy to carry on about that. I feel like I've stumbled and had all sorts of things along the way. But it was in 2018 that I knew I wanted to keep empowering my clients to do their mat practice at home. So where I had put some YouTube videos on. What's up, Miriam? I see my friends on here.
Yeah, don't you love it?
Yeah. So I threw some YouTube videos up years ago, and that's a fun story. I knew we could talk for hours, Martin.
Sure. Yeah.
And then I decided, okay, I want to keep making videos, but somebody's got to make money for this shit. So I launched Core Self. And so Core Self is an online video. I don't want to call it subscription. We usually call it a membership, because you really become part of this sort of intimate workout space with me, where I still get to merge acupuncture, Chinese medicine philosophy, and classical Pilates.
Yes.
So I launched that in 2018, which has been great. And that's really grown. And of course, that since March happened was like, let's just keep cranking that dial.
Yeah, you're so ahead of the curve with that.
Yeah, I was really ready to go, and then I could turn that up. And then I also have had really remarkable opportunities working with professional athletes, and specifically women of the WNBA. So I was able to really turn that dial up, because professional athletes were quarantined too. And what are you going to do at home? Well, you're going to do Pilates with me, because I'm going to kick your ass in your house. So that worked out really well. And then I have really rebranded my Pilates teacher training program to have even more of a mentoring, because I have, over the years, have been training teachers from zero, kind of like when you had Lori Coleman Brown on. I loved, and I love her, but similar, like she said, she kind of has this more master's program. I'm calling mine a mentorship. So I have, over the years, trained quite a few teachers to go from zero to certified, or they just have my certificate and they're really good. And then now I want to work more with teachers who are already teachers from all sorts of backgrounds, and then have this mentoring relationship, and remotely, so I've been very impressed with how much work we can do together through this little screen. So I would say those are the three parts, and they all do this. They all feed and fuel and converse with each other. So it's super fun.
Yes. So what do you say to the person who has that entrepreneurial ambition but has kids running around like you do as well? Like, how do you balance that out?
Disney Plus. No, just kidding. Not always. Sometimes it is Disney Plus.
Yes.
I try to make sure I have pockets that I'm focusing on one fully. And then I have to make sure that I have moments where I'm not trying to work at the same time, but I'm just with my kids, because it's the trying to do both at the same time all the time that can make you feel really frenetic.
Of course. Well, you don't do either really well at that point.
Right. And then also, like I was saying, to let them be part of it. Like if I know I need a workout, we'll come in when no one's in the studio, or come in on Sundays, and they get to work the speaker system, dance in the mirror, and I do my whole reformer for an hour. And so they're part of what I need too.
Yes.
And then I'm clear with them, if I don't get my workout in, it's monster mommy, so you better give me some space.
Yes.
They're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So sometimes it's both, but then it definitely has to be a total focus on one or the other.
Yes.
And it's leaning in. I mean, I am grateful. Their dad is awesome, and he's in town. And so the kids go back and forth. So I have windows where they're with him, and I know that they're doing great things with him. And so I get to focus on I just work my ass off on those windows.
On those down.
It would be,
honestly,
it would be good for me to pause and be like, I'm going to sit and read my book in the sun, but
grind. Yeah.
It's grind right now. It's just hustle. It just is.
Yeah.
And so
There's so many things in there. When you're saying about like with your, with their dad being involved, I used to say all the time that I couldn't say I was a single dad. I
Yeah.
really, you are co-parenting, like what you said, like
Right. Right.
they're there, and that helps because then you have that much more intentional time with the kids, and then intentional time to focus on your business.
Yeah.
And my buddies who were not in that situation, they almost look enviously at me, like,
Yeah.
oh, it's so good to have
Yeah.
like full on focus time and full on like off time too, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And then it does, I really have, it's super interesting co-parenting. You never get married thinking you're going to get divorced.
right.
At least, I mean, but we got together. We were both young. We were together a long time, married the other 14 years, probably married 9 years.
Yeah.
And thank goodness, because if not, I would not have these two children. They're amazing little humans, So, we've worked it out. They're boundary, of course I don't know about of course, but we certainly have tension, but we also have boundaries and clarity, and we really have true investment in love for our kids. And so that trumps any of our beef.
Yes.
In that we're like, and so we do work well together, and he works full time too. And I've made some posts about that on my Instagram, is that Corona has shifted everything, because since they were one and they could go to full-time daycare, they did, because I've always been I've always been a worker bee, and a creative entrepreneur for a long time. So, and that was an interesting thing about having kids too, is then having mom friends who don't work, and it's a crazy thing you go through, and plenty of internal shaming, and then some total blatant shaming, like, you put your kid in full-time daycare? I'm like, yeah, I do. And guess what? They're okay. They're awesome. They're independent. They are confident. They are comfortable with the world and themselves. They know how to engage with people. We go out to a restaurant, and by the end, they're back there running the register. They're friends with everybody at every table. They're like, they know how to be in the world. And I think the daycare had a huge part of that. But
exactly. But then at the same time, as a mom, you have to balance all these messages, because I'm sure at the same time you get those daggers thrown that, like, you can't be a good worker and a good mom at the same time. You're either a great mom and a bad worker, or a great entrepreneur and a bad mom, right? So,
Yes. Yeah, it's interesting. It takes a pause to discern, like, whose voices are these?
Whose voices?
Yes. In your head, and be like, oh wait, okay, that's not my voice. That's so and so and their judgment. Okay. I don't have to listen to that.
Right.
But it's,
Well, that's why I'm kind of camping out on this for a minute, because like the people that watch this, like, it's one thing to say, yeah, I have this beautiful studio and everything's great in my world, but like there are people who are going through separations right now. There are people who have terrible relationships with their exes. There's people that are trying to navigate, trying to put this game face on to be on the screen and help their people, and just dread their home lives. So when you hear stories like this, where, there's a split, but you're amicable and you're actually locked in to be good teammates in raising kids. That's hopeful. That is a very hopeful message. And, I'm grateful that I have that too. My ex and I, like, working well with, for the sake of our boys, like, it's good when you can lay aside your own differences to be able to stay locked on that one thing. So
yes. And as much as I see he's a really good person, and he loves those kids, and I am also so happy I'm not married to him anymore. But it's super ugly. And I went through, it's interesting, because this morning actually I had an hour and a half on Zoom with my business coach I've been working with over the years. I'm an athlete, and I always love to be both coached and coaching.
Yes.
So I've got a great business coach now. I've been working with her this whole year before all of this. But we were talking about my, COVID is really restructuring my relationship with Classique. And I think it's as a business owner, we can get lost in that our identity is our business.
Yes.
And actually, this happened. We were in a new neighborhood walking dogs, and this woman saw my tank top and saw the Classique logo on the back, and she goes, "Oh, do you know about Classique? I've heard about that place." And I was like,
good.
"I am Classique."
Yeah.
And then I was like, "Wait." She's like, "What?" Yeah. Like, yeah. owner, founder, creator thing. I am the thing. But then I was like, no,
Mm-hmm.
I am owner, founder, creator, fueler, maybe mother,
Right.
but I am not classique. I am Brooke,
Right.
and I have a relationship with classique.
Yes.
And back to what I was talking about with my business coach was like this, in order for me to really be present for core self in that community, to grow my core self athlete platform and have these meaningful relationships with these WNBA players and be there for this one-on-one work and training, mentoring teachers in one-on-one, everything shifting in my relationship with classique as my home place space.
Yes.
And there's grief in there. There's a lot of stubbornness in there. And there's, with
Pride
patience, there will be a lot of freedom. Yes.
Yeah.
I have to be a little more free of this place. But
yes,
so much of classique was built in that it was a very important home for me, a place to find meaning when my home, in terms of, was not. And so that's really interesting in getting divorced and separating and now, and shifting everything is, I don't need classique in the ways that I did at a time when I was dead at home. And
that was your refuge.
Was where I was alive. Yes. Yeah.
It was your refuge.
And I didn't know totally at the time, but it's so funny how you see things, right? In hindsight.
Yeah. There's I've been there too, where like you can't wait to get to work. You can't wait to be a face in the crowd. You can't wait to just talk with your clients and listen to their stories instead of have to rehearse your own story, whether in your head or verbally to them. So it becomes that place where like your work becomes your safe place, right? Your place where you get to hide. Yeah, so that's good. That's a healthy spot to be in where you can reevaluate that. Like I wrote down the word relationship with, because that's the dialogue we need to have with ourselves with the things that we think we embody. And really, no, you have a relationship with that.
Right.
And, you know, working with some NBA guys too, and working with elite athletes, that is their struggle. They are not a football player. They are a athlete, a man who plays football. You're not an NBA athlete. You are an athlete that plays basketball. And once you can separate those two, then you're able to move forward. But you get stuck in that identity, you're not, your head isn't clear to make sound decisions because it is wrapped in how do I save my pride? How do I save my identity? How do I save these things and never get a chance to move forward and grow?
Yeah, and I think I feel aware. I would say I feel fortunate, but I guess if I just say that, it sounds like I didn't have anything to do with it, but I've made all the choices along the way. So I feel grateful and aware that what I do professionally is in full integration with who I am.
Yes.
So there isn't a schism in any way there. Like there's total embodiment and integration because the Chinese medicine combined with classical Pilates is fully alive in classique, is fully alive in core self and how I teach and how I mentor teachers to look through this lens of the 5 elements and look on our growth and our process of continual unbecoming and becoming, this journey. So that's who I am at work is who I am in life. So in the ways that I do work a lot, that is not there's no separation from, or like, you know, there's no value division in there. It feels, it feels true.
No, I hear you. You haven't said the word, but I hear empowerment a lot in what you're saying too.
Yes, and that's what I hope to pass on to clients, to my staff here, to my kids, you know, all this like
well, people
understanding ownership.
Ownership, because a lot of times people feel like life is happening to them and they're a victim of their circumstance.
Right. Oh, yeah, I created all of this. I
created all of this.
Which sometimes I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Why did I create all of this? You know?
Yeah.
And you look around and you're like, oh, okay. me.
Yeah.
I can't point the finger at anybody else.
Right. But for good or for bad, right? I mean,
Yeah, for good. Ultimately for good.
You know, because there's people who flip that around and then they blame everybody else because all these different things that happen to them. Whereas like it sounds like core self and all these different things that you're doing, the message is that you can craft your future. You can craft your existence and your identity.
Yep. Yep. Yes. Yeah. It has to do with even, health ownership and
yes.
In the Chinese medicine world, that definitely can get thrown around. Like, am I a healer? Well, I don't know. I wouldn't call myself a healer, but can I help you with a lot of stuff? Oh, yes. But you have to do it. You can come in and I've made a space and a safe place in a beautiful room. And I'm going to meet you where you are and feel your pulses and look at your tongue and be your acupuncturist and listen. And I'm going to listen and see things that are in between the actual things you're saying and doing.
Of course.
Because that's part of, same when we're teaching Pilates.
Yep.
And then I'll put the needles in and do the cupping and do the scraping and bring in essential oils and set the moment and help the chi. But you got to do it. And then I'm going to leave and you do you.
Yes.
And I can't heal you, but I can create like an opportunity or a moment for you to be so empowered.
I'm letting you wrestle with the word there. So you're not a healer.
Yeah.
Facilitator, cultivator, like what would you call it?
Oh, I don't know. I might not call it anything. I'm just here for you. I'm trained and I'm skilled and I've done I'm smart. I've been to a lot of school. I've studied a lot. Taught Pilates a long time, so I'm gonna read. I'm just in connection and communication with you.
Okay.
And with the tools in my tool belt, I'll put some things out there and a guide.
A guide.
There you go. That's my apprentice talking. Karen, she knows it. She and I are like this right now. We spent a lot of time together through Corona.
Yes.
A guide. Yeah. Yeah. But I feel like I'm a creator. I feel like I'm an artist. And then I like almost an experiential artist. I don't know. But that's the part that's very playful for me. Same in the Pilates studio.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love the artist piece and you one of your things said about being curious. Like I love Pilates people who come on, like Lori, super. I was so inspired to be curious with my work.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. That was the thing. Like that word curious is the thing that really jumped off the page for me. Like, okay, I need to just up my curious game.
And that's where I love, I feel like that, and Karen, my apprentice here, would back me up, is that classical Pilates it's the clarity and the organization and the system. Mm-hmm. That is so awesome, because within that clarity, there is so much play and creativity.
Yes.
It allows for that. It gives you a frame, and within the frame, it's like party time, but it's still classical Pilates.
Right.
So
I would, before all these conversations, I would have used the word strategic as opposed to creative for myself.
Yeah.
Like I look at it like, okay, what is the strategy I'm going to use to get this person from here to here, from pain to freedom, from movement to like, I thought from the strategy standpoint, as opposed to creatively, how can I get them from here to here?
Okay. So here's where, for me, and this is just part of my nature, I'm a girl who likes to wing it. And that's, so I might have a strategy, I don't know until I know and we're in the moment. And so, yes, as long as there's this flexibility in.
Absolutely.
Like if somebody comes in and says, oh, well, I have, I got T&J and I need acupuncture for that. Like, I don't come in with a plan. I got to see you. I got to read it. I got to find out what's the root underneath it. So I might have 5 clients with knee pain, and they'll have 5 different treatments, because same with Pilates. So that's where I feel like the artistry is, that there's a relational,
Yeah,
absolutely. I said that on my core self post yesterday. I was doing handstands with my daughter. Mm-hmm. She loves a handstand. She's got my genes. We like to be upside down as much as possible. So whenever I'm doing hands-on with somebody, I am as much receiving information as I am giving. So there is this.
Yes. Dialogue.
Yes, yes. So I feel like there's artistry in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm pulling on my creative side, hanging out with all you guys.
I know, right?
That's good.
It's fun.
Hmm.
It's liberating.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I feel so well-rounded, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
like there's maybe it's just like being in one way. It's like, oh, that works too. I can be creative here. I have permission to, right?
Yeah.
That was a
Yeah.
conversation from Lori too. Like when you hear someone that has that level of experience, that many years under their belt, there's such a like a freedom in the way that they teach that isn't there when you're learning. And obviously, I respect the fact that you need to
Yes.
have, an understanding of, toes, arches, heels, tendon stretch and just structure. I get it. But you almost get to relax into your work and just trust that you know what you know, and you can be creative from that place.
Yes.
And then you can be curious. You're free to be curious because you're not going off rote memory of what the next exercise is.
Right. Yeah, and then it's very alive.
Very alive.
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that what happens with the apprentices, at least these two, I have two right now. Joel, what's up, Joel? Joel's my Atlanta neighbor. He's so close, yet so far away.
Yes. Laura was calling him Twinkly last week, I think it was the
I
phrase.
saw that.
Yes.
Joel. Yeah, he's fantastic.
He's fantastic.
So what was I gonna say? Joel, you got me all distracted. I was thinking about your studio. His studio is so there's so many languages flying around at the same time. It's very cool. Yeah. Joel's speaking Korean and Spanish, and it's just awesome. Nice. Yeah, so I think what happens with my apprentices training with me.
Yes.
Because, okay, so here in my teacher training history, right, and this is how I know Lori from Seattle. I've spent a lot of time in Seattle, and I studied with Dorte Vanderwall, and she's in Seattle, and she's been doing this so long, like Lori, and she had an intimate relationship with Romana they were super tight. She's a dancer. She's an incredible instructor. And so I was lucky to train with her super intensely in 2002, 2003, right when she opened Metropolitan Pilates, her big studio in the U Village.
Okay.
And was one of her early apprentices. And at that point, I was just a baby. And I was able to go live with my aunt. I have family in Seattle. All my family's from out west. I ended up coming to the Southeast because of the boyfriend, now the baby daddy, now the ex-husband. Sort of pulled me this way, yes. Which again is awesome. It's part of the.
It's all part of your journey.
Of the story.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I do love Seattle and have spent a lot of time there. And so training with Dorte, she's a dancer. It is clear. It is structured. Especially then, it was like there was a rigidity, and I responded to that great because I loved being coached. I had played basketball in college. Yeah, you can hard ass me, and that's fine. I'm going to rise to the occasion. You give me that ball on the free throw line in the fourth quarter, and it's going to happen. I thrive under pressure, which then that's when I get back to this like creative entrepreneur. I'm like, why did I do this to myself? Oh, right, because I love to rise under pressure. Right. Super annoying, but also a skill.
Yes.
So training with Dorte was awesome, and then I got to see Lori up there a lot too. Very, very clear, very clean, was great. And then I went back to Idaho, was where I grew up, and then I was teaching there and doing all the things it takes to live in a ski town, which is I was teaching 8th grade, I was coaching middle school basketball,
you sound like my
I was
wife
teaching
right now.
Pilates,
honestly,
I was like waitressing on the weekends.
Yeah.
Like, do we ever ski? No, we don't ski anymore because we can't afford to live here, which is why you leave. Fortunately, my parents are still there, so we can go back and ski bum with my dad, who's 73 and still skiing and motorcycling. Good genes in there.
I was gonna say.
So, yeah, he's a badass. So then after teaching, when I moved to Asheville, I started acupuncture school. It's a 4-year master's program here. Mm-hmm. So I did this local acupuncture college, and the whole time was teaching Pilates throughout. And then when I opened Classique, I went to a business program, and I was ready to open my own studio because I wanted to do the things I do in one place.
Yes.
Instead of being this little ping pong ball, which I know I could be. You know, I was teaching Pilates here, going to school, then I was coaching varsity basketball, girls basketball again.
Yes.
It's like, oh my God, can we get in one place and bring the people to me? So
Yes.
I did that. Here's an acupuncture room, here's a Pilates studio, side by side. And then I started training people through Dorte's, a satellite to Dorte's Seattle program. And she had 3 of us in Portland and San Francisco and me in Asheville. So I did that through her for some years. Amazing. Where my apprentices would train with me and then fly to her to take some tests.
Yes.
And then it's like, you know, when you know that it's time to fly free. And then I did. So I got to do this myself. It doesn't make sense for my apprentices to fly 3,000 miles across the country to test with Dorte, who's amazing. But if they don't pass my test, they don't get a job. So
true.
I got to test them out.
Was that a tough transition? Was that like tearing off a Band-Aid, or was it like a sending off?
Yes. No, it tore off a Band-Aid and it did not go well. They you know, I wish it went smoother. I don't know how it could have been done any differently.
Sometimes it can't. You know what I mean?
I wish it was somehow, but it's a multi-relationship. I don't know how, you know, and everybody has their own experience through it. So, but I knew that I needed to have more freedom in my voice and to integrate everything I knew from Chinese medicine as well into how I train teachers. And I knew that I didn't want to just teach from Dorte's manuals anymore. I needed to write my own. And the apprentices were spending all day, every day with me, so intimate.
Yes.
And even for the apprentices, they're like, sure, I'm sure Dorte is great, but I've never been there and seen her. You're my teacher.
Yes.
Why do I have to fly to Seattle? I couldn't make ends meet as an entrepreneur. You know, I couldn't put a surcharge on my training because they were going to spend $5,000 extra just to go. We're so far away from Seattle. I wish we weren't. I wish we weren't. But so that was very liberating painful, liberating, same. It's like getting divorced. It's liberating. But then suddenly everything opens up and you're like, holy shit, big world out there. Yes. And I can be as big as I want to be. This is so exciting.
So liberating, but so scary.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But that takes a lot of courage.
Yes.
Yeah. So my training now is the apprentices that train with me, because of the ways I've liberated myself and how I share what I love and my experience with it, they actually get a crazy richness that is almost like too much for an apprentice learning, but we do it anyway. Like they get the clarity and the structure and the system, but they get all these layers of richness and the psychological aspect, the emotional work, and how are we bringing somebody through something? We're giving them information, but until they're ready to absorb it, you might not see that shift in their swan, but okay, if they're stuck, how do we move chi? Like they get so much richness because, I don't know, I think it's kind of fun. We'll have to, their training is so well-rounded and all-encompassing.
Yes.
More that they're not learning how to just like, here's how you teach elephant and here's the modifications. They certainly are, and I'm all over them. Yeah. You know, talking about being a hard ass.
No, but I could hear it. It's like it's really an exhaustive learning process. Like it's not just topical. You're getting really deep with everything.
Right. Yes. Yeah, it's so rich. And then we're able to have pretty wide open conversations about self-worth. You know, okay, why are you struggling to teach this math class? Well, because you got to get up at the front of the room and you got to own it.
Yes.
And, you know, you do. And maybe you don't feel like you own it right now, but go do it anyway. Do it.
Yes.
And I've got your back. You know, this is going to stumble. And what if it sucks? Fine. I'll see you tomorrow. And sometimes you're like slammed against a wall. And we'll talk about this with the apprentices. And that's in every learning process. You're at a wall, and I love a wall. Because there's something over there.
Right.
And until sometimes you can only get through that wall. You got to like take out one brick. Whew, there's a little crack. Okay, I'm gonna take out one more brick. Oh, there's a little more. Sometimes you're like gonna blow that thing up. Like
yeah.
But sometimes it's little piece by little piece, and then we have these amazing breakthroughs. We get all emotional, and so fun. So it's
Wow.
And it's life, you know, and that's
It's
where I feel like
life.
Pilates, this is what I'm teaching my clients too. This is empowering them in their whole lives
Of
and their
course.
connection to themselves and their self-worth. So
Yes.
certainly I'm training my teachers to
Mhm.
understand that whole component of their skill set as well.
Yes.
So
Absolutely. Off the
that was
top
a
of your
long
head,
story.
no, that's a great story. And off the top of your head, can you think of one of your life lessons that you took away from your apprentice trainings over the years?
From training apprentices or being an
Yes.
apprentice back in the
No,
day?
from training them.
Training. Yes. Holy cow. Um, yeah, I remember. Okay, another story. I knew I could talk to you all day.
Story
Uh,
time. Let's go.
this is a funny one. Um, I remember first, you know, so I wanted to go to med school, I thought. In college, I was like pre-med, science, math. I was almost a math major. And then you're like, what am I doing? I'm going to be in a lab coat inside forever.
Yeah, I
Forget
need to
this.
move. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was a science nerd, right? Totally. And then I'd like audit history classes while being on a basketball team and having a job. Like, you see,
Wow. Yes.
you see this? So, you see what we're working with here, Martin?
I do.
So,
You
so,
know, my background's in
what's up,
counseling, right?
Michelle?
I'm like,
Yes.
yes. I'm like, tell me more. Come on.
Yeah.
That's-
Um, so I didn't know how much I loved teaching.
Mhm.
And when I got out of college, uh, I did this super cool trip in New Zealand by myself, just me and my backpack through New Zealand for 6 months. That was
Amazing.
epic. Yeah.
Yes.
And then I came back and I sort of fell into a job teaching 8th grade at my old high school and then training to be an apprentice at the same time. And so I taught 8th grade math and science. And I learned right then, and again, I was too young. I was like 21, 20. I was
Yeah.
21, 22. I learned right then, like in a room of kids trying to teach them pre-algebra, I'm going to say something and I've caught two of them. Okay. I've got
Right.
to say it a little bit differently. I got one more. Good. Now I'm
Yes.
going to show it. And now I caught one more. Like I
Yes.
learned right away. I had to throw my voice
Diversify.
in different angles,
Yes.
diversify.
Yes.
Yes. There's a different, whoever just said the body literacy, like
Mm.
I had to find different ways to catch. And I feel like that really helped me know later, okay, every apprentice learns so differently. And
Mm.
teaching adults is not easy because we are like stubborn. Speaking of,
Yes.
Iram just joined, my other apprentice. Not you, Iram, it was Karen I was talking about. But teaching adults is a totally different than teaching kids.
Yes.
We have more ruts, you know?
Right.
We're
Yeah.
like, I got a rut. This is how I do things. You're like, but is this working for you?
Right.
And
Has that worked
so,
for you? Really?
yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So, okay, so my funny story was that as an 8th grade teacher, I taught math and science, right? So, I taught sex ed. So
Okay.
it was hilarious. Again, I
Can
was too
imagine.
young.
Yes. The
And so, you know,
craziness.
all of, yes. The class got split into boys and girls. Then the first day, it was hilarious. So, you know, we're talking about all the things. We're talking about like length of orgasm, like, and it's a small private school. I'm making up the curriculum. They're like, Brooke, teach
Gosh.
sex ed. I was like, okay.
Let's go. Yeah.
So I turn on I remember this moment forever. I turn and I write on the whiteboard, scrotum. I turn around and I'm like, and then, because sometimes I do this when I talk, I
Yeah.
like use my hands, right? So I'm like,
Right.
so we're going to talk about this. They all bust up laughing. I start laughing. I'm crying. I have to leave the room and like come back and regroup. I was like, guys, I think we're done today. It was funny.
Right.
It was a funny time.
Yes.
So, yes, in teaching
Michelle's
apprentices,
dying. Yes. So in teaching apprentices, we need to know our audience.
everybody
Funny.
learns so
I do the same
differently.
thing with my hands
See,
too.
we do this, but you
Right.
can't do this while you're teaching about the scrotum. You
About the
can't.
scrotum. Noted. Right. I'll write that down
Just
for later.
for your
Yes.
future. Yes.
Right. Yes.
Um, so in teaching apprentices, I feel like I am always learning. They're teaching me. I have to keep adjusting my language, my cues. What worked for this last group is not working for this group. And my apprentices right now
Yeah.
are teaching me so much because
Right.
they are 180 degrees opposite on so many things. If one's over here, the other one is whoop, over here. And so I'm like,
so you're working.
Okay, yes. And it's so cool because it's, again, it's that word like alive. The teaching's alive.
Yes.
I'm not teaching the intermediate order, but I am teaching the intermediate order. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So
there's something,
it's rich.
and guys, everyone who are watching this, there's something attractive about people that are flowing in their area of passion. They feel so alive, and you see that they're alive, and that draws you to them. Like I can imagine that every one of your apprentices just love you. Even on the days they hate you, they still love you because you're drawing out the best of them.
I make them cry sometimes.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's part of
But
the
when
journey.
it's coming from a place of someone who they know you care,
they'll
live.
Yes. And I want to train excellent, phenomenal, well-rounded instructors.
Better than you.
Yes. I'm gonna, and I don't know. I have to, I'm very discerning on social media. Like I have to protect my dopamine. So like, I don't get on Facebook. I do have 3 Instagram accounts. I'm very mindful of how much I surf and cruise. I pretty much just keep track of my WNBA players because I love them so much. But I know there are conversations about, that maybe there's classical teachers like hoard information so that you.
Yes.
I
talked about that, about holding that information hostage.
Yeah. And I don't think that that's a fair thing to tag into a certain type of instructor. People do that, but people do all sorts of things. But classical, that just because I'm classical doesn't mean I hoard stuff. I give it all away. I want you to be you, and I don't want you to be me either. Like I'm not trying to create. Actually, I would like more of myself so I could help run more businesses a little better. But when I'm training teachers, I don't want to make you like me. You are like you, and here's a lens, here's a skill, here's the way for you to troubleshoot situations you're going to show up, so that. And I'm super proud. One of my apprentices in the last group, she ended up leaving Asheville, moving to Greensboro, and we keep in touch. And she's like, Brooke, I am the best teacher in this whole city. I'm like, I know you are. Hell yes, you are. You know, I want to train teachers that when they go out in the world or when they run my studio, that they are the best.
Yes.
And what does this mean? It means they connect. What is best?
I hear you.
I try.
Yes.
Even with my kids, I'm like, they're like, is this good, mommy? And then I quote Lao Tzu. I'm like, who's to say what is good and what is bad? And my son's like, what? But Darth Vader was bad. I was like, no, he might be good. Look at what happened to Kylo Ren. You know, we got this light inside of us, even the dark ones.
These poor kids.
I know. My kids are like, can we catch a break?
Yeah.
So when I say the best teachers, is that I want them to feel super equipped for every and any client that comes in, that they are curious and open, that they're present and compassionate, that they're also clear. You know, I want to train teachers that can kick their clients' asses safely, you know, and that's a line we talk about. How much can you challenge somebody? If they didn't want to be slightly challenged, I don't think they'd come in the studio. They would work out at home to the YouTube videos because they can talk back to the screen and throw things at it all day, but no one's going to say anything. So that's what I mean by best. I don't mean superior, but I mean super talented and present and
the best version of themselves.
Yes. And also over the years that I've had more workshops and seminars and had teachers from other trainings and other studios come in, whether they're classical or not, they are 100% of the time floored by how much I value them as the instructor during their instructing. So often in a seminar, it's like, okay, we're gonna practice how do we teach long spine or long stretch series. So long spine on the reformer. So how do you, like, that's a tricky one to spot. How do you spot it? How are you gonna help touch somebody's feet? Okay, so we're talking about that, but I am far more concerned with that teacher and how are they in their own bodies? And
Okay.
so these teachers who come to seminars, they're like, what are you checking me out for? I'm like, it's all about you. You are
Yeah.
the thing. You are the
So
most
what?
important thing.
So
If you're
say
not in
more
your
about that.
powerhouse,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
you have to be in your powerhouse while you're
As you're
teaching.
teaching. Yeah.
Yes, you have
Right.
to be. How are you standing? Are you hyperextending your knees? Of course you're not. Are you, standing well? Are you upright? How are you touching the apparatus? How are you dancing? We'll talk about it as I'm dancing around the Cadillac. So I'm always in integrity and alignment with my posture and my powerhouse.
Yes.
Then I can show up for you. And
Right.
we've even had some Jedi moments where I'm helping my apprentices teach the clients, or we're having a teachable moment, I'll call it, and I'm like, all right, close your eyes. And then the person, let's say you're on top of it. You should test this. Get a buddy.
Okay. Right.
You're on top of the this is the best one to do it. One to chair. You're sitting on top. You're gonna do, yes, Joel, teach powerhouse to powerhouse.
That's a
This is
good
what I'm
word.
saying.
Yeah.
You're
Yes.
doing teaser. So you have your hands on the pedal behind you, right? You're going back.
Yes. Yeah.
Now I'm giving you feedback and pressing your feet. I
Yes.
can press your feet from my hands or
Right.
my shoulders or my elbows. Now
Right.
I can connect to my powerhouse and then connect to you. And if we all close our eyes and do it and feel like, where is this coming from?
Yes.
It is so clear. It's so cool. So sometimes we teach with our eyes closed and we get real energetic woo woo, and you can feel the powerhouse connection,
Yes.
It's the
That's pretty
same
cool.
with acupuncture. I'm putting a needle in, not because I'm putting a needle through your skin. That's not what I'm doing. I mean, except that is what I'm doing, but that's,
Yeah,
you got.
You're like
So
a Jedi. Like I'm talking to like this like like I'm like hanging on. You do realize that I'm like hanging on at moments when you start talking like this, right? Like, yes, mind blowing.
I
Okay,
do
go
it
on.
like this. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. But it's super rich, and I don't know, going to acupuncture school changed everything for me. I remember the Taoist priest that really is sort of the leader at our acupuncture school. He's like, you don't need needles. Like, you can, that's there does go this next level of this energetic connection, but it's so
Yes.
true.
Yeah.
Which is why I can teach so much from my hands, and we'll talk about it with the apprentices. And we're navigating right now during Corona and social distancing times, is hands-on is still like normally for me. We're touching a lot, but we're touching well and smart. It's not overdone. It's intentional. I'm always in my frame. I'm not assisting you from up here. I'm not holding your legs on long spine from up here, because I'm gonna have issues.
Yes.
And if I have issues, we all have issues. So I have to be, I'm in my frame. I'm in my powerhouse. I'm safe and connected. So I can connect to you safely. And then my little bit of touch is super effective and powerful.
Yes.
Because it's coming deep from within me.
Right.
And why? Why is it coming deep from within me? Because I keep up my own practice. And that is everything.
Yes. It's good stuff.
That's my mic drop. Just kidding. Okay.
That's a good mic drop. That's straight good mic drop there.
Right?
Yes, absolutely.
That's why,
Brett.
like, when people were like, why do you work out so much? I don't care about, I mean, it's, to me, and this I try to make sure comes across, and I'm very brand mindful. I have multiple brands going on, is that doing Pilates, what's up, Sonia, is not about being skinny and fit and a bikini body and all those. It's about how you feel in your skin.
Right. Yes.
And that is a journey,
Right.
And so for me, it's hard for me to sit and meditate silently. Can you imagine?
No, not at all.
So for me, my practice is very meditative, and it's very chill and very quiet. And I'm thinking, I'm inside my skin,
It's centering.
in the practice, feeling it.
Yes.
And I'm feeling every transition. I'm not going through shapes. I'm inside the flow.
Yes.
And so because I keep so connected to that, that lets me flow as a teacher, as an entrepreneur, as a mom. And not that I don't stumble and fall on my face, because I do plenty. But that's I think such the value of the practice.
Right, exactly.
So,
Do you have time to do like another half hour here? Are you locked off at
oh,
11?
my kids are on Disney Plus. They are fine. I was like, this morning they were doing art projects at home while I had my business coach, because that's a little more casual. That's what we call a yellow light
Okay.
at home.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, all right, I'm working with Annie. Y'all make yourself breakfast, do your thing. They got out puffy paint. I don't know what they were doing. And then now's a red light, so they're on Disney Plus. So we got all
Too
day
funny.
apart.
Okay, because we're at 55. I'm gonna sign you off and I'll jump back on. What's up, Jason?
We're back.
We're back. When you were talking about WNBA players, one of the conversations I used to have with them a lot was one around being elite and what that means in terms of just that determination, whether it's in business or their sport. And the second part was handling disappointments.
Yeah.
And I thought that is a really cool conversation to have with them, because like 1 minute you're winning, next minute you're losing, 1 minute you're cut, next minute you're doing your best and everyone likes you, and then you get this message that you're moving teams. And you're like, I just checked every box.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm out anyways. And it's the same, and us as teachers, right. we could have a great client and everything's great, you love them, and then you hear that they want to train with somebody else, and you're like,
yes.
We just bonded, right? Or like you're teaching and you're a teacher apprentice and you're doing everything right, but then you're so
that's the Tao. That's the practicing non-attachment, Martin.
Okay, exactly.
It's also short game, long game. And I feel like I've learned that with working with some of the professional athletes too, the ones who've been in it, they have such poise in I think in understanding that adversity. Like I'll say, one of my favorite humans is Sue Bird. Sue Bird.
Yes.
So Sue and I have worked together.
Can you tell everyone who Sue Bird is just before you get going with that?
Sue Bird is the best point guard in the history of women's basketball. She's won 4 Olympics. They just won the championship again. She's won the Seattle Storm 4 championships. She's a legend. She also has such presence, and she's going to turn 40 in like a week. And that's to have such longevity. So, and she's had quite a few injuries along the way. So in working with her she missed the whole 2019 season because of the knee injury, but I could really see in her and Sylvia Fowles I work with, and she had an injury this season, and where there is an injury that stops them, Sylvia didn't get to play in the playoffs. But there's such poise and vision for the long game as well as what's happening right now. And so I've really seen, I think when you are such an elite athlete, it's like you've cultivated the ease inside the struggle.
Yes.
That's like the knee series, Martin. The poise. It's not, inside the struggle. And then suddenly the knee series is like, no big deal. 20 knees off, no problem. My legs are not burning. I don't even feel my legs. It's coming from a powerhouse.
Right. Everyone's like, yeah, me too.
Yeah, obviously.
But I love that word poise, right? Like, I remember when my kids were young, I did this like parenting workshop stuff. Like I'm all over like this like self-improvement stuff.
Cool.
And one of the things that they taught us was teaching your kids poise. Yeah. And I was like, I've never heard anyone talk about teaching your children poise. And the way that was framed was like setting them up to lose, setting them up for disappointment, setting them up so that when they lose in the game, they can go and shake someone's hand, say good game, walk away, and cry in the car if you want, but at least have that sense. So I've taken that into the way that I teach when I was doing training personal trainers or whatever it is. There's a sense of setting people up safely for disappointment, so that builds their resistance so that they can succeed in the long game. Yes,
that's the resilience, right?
That's the resilience. Yeah.
Yes, that's a really cool word. To keep showing up.
Yes.
Yep.
Totally need to keep showing up.
And I'm grateful even with the parenting, my kids have relationships with some of these women and these players, and we watch the games and they see this intensity. Like And that, like you're saying, Joel, the short game, it's like, we're going to show up right now because it is game time and it's game 3 and we're about to win a championship. But there's still this awareness and this vision for, but wait, I'm going to show up for the next 10 years too. That's the short game, long game, is like, I am so present right now in this moment. And I have an awareness of a bigger picture. And that's also the business coach I work with. Bird's Eye is the name of her. So it's this, how do you change altitude? And so she and I were talking about that today. Is sometimes as you're seeing, and I got a lot of things going on. So sometimes I need to like dive underneath it and get inside. And now I'm like, I'm in the spreadsheets. I'm like working the cash flow. And then you're like, oh my God, I got to get out of this place. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to go up to the very top and look down and see the landscape of the last 6 months. Whoa.
Yes.
And so that, I don't know, that's another way of short-term, long-term, or adjusting your altitude to see.
Absolutely. That's a great analogy.
And that, again, coming back to the Pilates practice, that's, I think that's what Pilates gives us done really well as a workout. Same with Chinese medicine. It is nourishing so that we have this like abundance that's going to help us in the long run. But also, I need a big sweat right now, or I just need to stretch right now, or I just need some cups on my back to lighten my load right now.
Yes.
But coming in for, acupuncture, I wish everybody in the world got acupuncture once a month. And then, because there is always
even if they're feeling
going
good
on. Yes. I mean, do you wait for your car to crap out on the side of the road? No. You change the oil. I know you take care of that car. I've seen the videos. You see? You keep that thing tuned. You like tend to it, take care of it. That's we get to take care of our own chi and blood and resources instead of waiting to be like, shit.
Too late. Yes, exactly.
So that's where, a little stomach series every day. Maybe there's not time to do a lot, but I could do the stomach series every day. It takes like 3 minutes.
Right.
It's a little something.
Sticking with the car analogy for a second, when the engine light comes on.
I knew that would catch you.
Yeah. So, the engine light comes on, and then people see the engine light, and then they run in and get it serviced. And then there's people like me that know when the engine light comes on, it's like, when the engine light's blinking, you have a problem.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna let it just ride out for a minute before I take care of it. And sometimes people like that, right? So we need to recognize where we are in that phase. So let's be completely preventative instead of waiting until we get that last warning sign,
but what the beautiful thing that you just said is that you are, even if you're not going to be reactive, you are tuned in. You listened. Your car was like, hi, and you're like, I hear you, I see you, I'm paying attention, but we're good. And I think that's the more we can help people tune into their own bodies and just listen, that's part of the empowerment, right? I want to teach you that if your back feels really stiff today, well, how can you modify your half roll downs? How can you modify your hundreds so you feel good today? Because your back might be stiff because for whatever reason. And so you are empowered with resources to give yourself your best practice in any given moment. So
in the same way your Chinese medicine is a piece that you marry to your Pilates.
Yes.
The like marriage and family therapy, the counseling piece is the piece that I'm married to my Pilates.
Cool.
And the term that I use is soul crafting.
Cool. Tell me more.
So, well, what I mean by that is, much like you're saying, we need acupuncture once a month. There's a sense of being proactive with the care of your body. I feel like we need to be proactive with the care of our mental state, of our emotional state. Right? And you're saying the same thing there. So I think that we need to be very intentional with those practices that allow us to just stay sound so that if no other reason, we can be aware when something is slightly off.
Yes. And that's where, and for me and the methods I use, both Chinese medicine and Pilates, it's an invitation to tune in.
Yes.
And then talk to your own. And when I have to give my elevator pitch about like, really, you put acupuncture and Pilates together, are you sure it's not yoga and massage? I'm like, no, it's not yoga. So when both acupuncture and Pilates, in that moment, it's helping someone to connect to their deepest strength at the core.
Yes.
The core of who you are. So there's the nourishment, and navigate your life with more ease. And that's this, you know, and I teach a whole intermediate workshop of a 3-day weekend called Strength and Ease. How are we finding, back to the knee series, if we've got to do 50 knees off, there's still ease, right?
Yes.
Let's do it later today.
Let's do it.
Ease. So it's both. It's, you've got this fullness, this strength, this lifted, this, we know how to nourish and how to navigate.
Yes.
And work through the walls like we talked about before. Yes.
So good. There's a term I use with my kids. I keep talking about coming back to kids, but being eyes up in the world as opposed to eyes down. Right? So if I'm on my phone, I'm eyes down. If I'm looking around the world and seeing what's happening, I'm eyes up. This whole conversation, Brooke, has been eyes up for me. I haven't looked down at my notes like once. I'm like,
oh, you got notes?
I got notes. And they're not really like, they're just like, it's almost like I was saying about structure. Like, it's just like the bones, and then we just put the muscles on as we talk. Like, it's just a skeleton. I don't really go back to it much, but there's a few things that we've touched on: marrying passions, being a serial entrepreneur, your core self, athletic strength, poise. I am worth it. That was one of the phrases that we were talking about earlier.
That was my mantra in getting divorced.
Yes.
Like, why am I doing this? Oh, right, because I'm worth it.
Yeah. What does it mean to be worth it?
So now here's more of my shares, right? You're like totally psychoanalyzing me at this point.
Not just like story time. I'm just like, go for it. Just, like,
yeah. So I really grew up, and this is something we talked about. Do we talk about this? I grew up with more the narrative, and I really love my family. I have a younger sister, and I got some great active parents present. They were at every basketball game. You gave me great opportunities. They're wonderful people. And we are now closer than we really have ever been.
Yes.
You know, getting divorced, you're like, it's very easy for people to put on a lens and like, I'm like broken or screwed up, or this, you know, it was not the script was not followed. And that is very triggering for people. I'm sure you found that.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
It triggers their own stuff. But it's like, you know, and I remember I was skiing with my dad, and we're going up the chairlift, and he said something super callous, and he's like, well, Brooke, you know, kids of divorced parents, they're little shits. They're little shits. They end up being, you know, because of coming from a broken family. And we got off the chairlift. We skied down. I cried the whole way. My goggles are like filling up. We get back on, and I'm like, Dad, listen, that's not okay. I know you're coming from a different generation, but guess what? There are all sorts of families now. There is no one right way. It's not broken. I'm not broken. Did my marriage not work? Did we make choices along the way? Like, and I, you know, as sort of a big separation of any kind, professional, personal, I was the one who was finally like, this doesn't work. I'm moving out. We can't do this. We are both miserable. So I called it, in a sense. So it's easy for me to be the villain. And if somebody wants a villain victim, they can point a finger at me, I suppose. Sometimes people need to have a villain or a victim as part of their own understanding. So it's like, Dad, I am not broken. And maybe if you see this as like, I fucked up because my marriage failed, fine. But let me tell you, families look all different ways. There can be two moms. There can be two dads. You know, here I am kind of being like, Dad, get with the times. Get out of your sense of what things are supposed to look like. You know, you had a nice little platonic family shape, and guess what? I don't anymore. My kids are going to have two parents. They're not. I am a present, loving mom, and you can't say that, and that hurts me. And he kind of sat back, and he's like, okay, well, teach me. I don't know how to do this, Brooke. Can you teach me? Oh, it makes me almost get choked up.
Yeah.
Because he was like, he heard me, and he's like, I don't want to be a shit to you like that, and so help me. I'm like, you just got to support me, Dad. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be uncomfortable. Just stick with me.
Yes.
Like, all right, I can do that. You know, it's so sweet.
That is
in the
so
end,
sweet.
Yeah, but growing up with all my sort of, I was told more often than not that I was too much. You know, and when you get told again and again that you're too much, the I feel like the internal interpretation of that is that you're not enough. It's the same. It's just that you're not right.
Yes.
Who you are
You're just
is
not
just,
right.
it's not right.
Yes. Yes.
And then here I am, like we have talked about, is I don't look like the rest of my family. I look Black. I look mixed. And that is an experience since my first memories are in this questioning of what are you? Well, actually, first is what is she? And this went,
Yes.
somebody looking at my mom, in my family, my sister, very white. And I don't know what I am. Sonia's always like, can you find out? You're like, what? To have all the information. They've got a lot
Yeah.
of information.
Yeah.
So I've never had any DNA testing, but I look different than the rest of my family. And I remember being in the grocery store at like 4 or 5 years old, and the checkout lady staring at my mom, staring at me, back and forth, and then just going to my mom, what is she? Yeah. And then that continued on through high school, college. What are you? What are you? And like I said, it wasn't until the online Momentum Fest and hearing some friends and some colleagues, marimba, women who are mixed, having this of like, these are the things that we've heard our whole lives, which is racist and sucks. And I was like jaw on the floor, like, and then I cried for 2 days. It's like, oh my God, in a few layers. I thought it was me. Like, there's something wrong with you.
Right. Yeah.
What are you? You don't fit, because my answer never satisfied the questioner. I was never white enough or Black enough. And I remember being in high school, I was on an airplane by myself next to a Black woman, and she was, talking about me being mixed. And I was like,
Yes.
I'm not. I learned kind of an apologetic line, just dark skin and curly hair. And always with that tone, because that was my mom's answer.
Yeah.
Totally apologetic. That's how my mom answered people. They're like, what is she? Because my mom's like, I don't know what to do with this hair. Here she is in white Idaho with me. Yeah. And they're like, what is she? And so I don't know. Just dark skin and curly hair. And so I learned to answer that. And then this woman got very upset with me because she thought I was denying my heritage. I'm at 16 alone on an airplane. And she's just berating me because I am not. I'm denying that I'm Black when I am. And I'm like, I can't. So it's had so many different layers.
Yes.
I don't know. It's rich, and it all, because of what's gone on in the last 6 months, it's getting unpacked for me in new ways, and a lot I still don't understand. And I'm grateful that I do have genuine Black friends who I can talk to about it as well.
Yes.
Because it's been interesting. I can see ways that I was tokenized as the diversity. I can see ways where it's very much like when I traveling in New Zealand. I mean, people were like, "Oh, are you from the islands?" And finally, I was like, "Yep, I'm from the islands." Mm-hmm. I don't
That's
know
what you want to hear.
You're talking about.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Yeah. So it's I don't know. I can kind of fit in anywhere, which is interesting. But then you almost you don't actually fit in anywhere.
Fit anywhere, right? Exactly. So then, where did you land at knowing your worth? Then is just finally rehearsing that enough that you saw it, like you start to just live it out, regardless of what people thought of you, sort of thing.
Yes. And I have a great therapist, and over the work with her, I've had a few, over the years, and the one I have now, I love. I don't know. There's something in me that no matter what, just kept coming up. I don't know. It could have been reacted different ways. Or even in the moments when, as a kid, I was sort of talked down to by intimate family as like, you're too much, calm down, lighten up, Brookie.
Yeah.
That line.
Right.
And I would feel it, and I would get sad, and then I just show up again. And I always built a powerful team around me. I was always on team sports, places where all of me was really welcomed, and and then good coaches that would even pull more out of me. I'm like, whoa, there's even more in there. So teams really helped me find myself.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see why your apprentices thrive. I mean, when you have that kind of life experience of people trying to push you down and then other people pushing you up at the same time, you land at a place where you can sniff that out in other people when they're down on themselves, and you can pull them up and all that stuff. But like, even as Brenda was saying there, what an awesome exchange with your dad. Moments like that where like there's such a validation when they could sit back and say, okay, teach me. When you get that from a father,
Yeah.
like I have a great dad as well. And when you get that kind of affirmation, you are a human being. I can learn from you, even though I gave birth to you.
Right.
That is a
Yeah. Yeah.
massive, massive message.
Yeah. And I feel like that, like we were talking earlier as a teacher trainer, is I'm here to teach you everything I know about Pilates and movement and richness and connecting with people. But oh my
Yes.
gosh, I'm learning this from you. I can
Yes.
be there for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes it super alive.
Super
Yeah.
alive.
Yeah. So I think it is interesting. And I have that awareness, and I talked about it with my business coach this morning too, that like I said, I've created a place that accepts me for who I am, whether I am mixed or not, or look mixed or not. And I belong, you know, we all want to belong.
Right. Love it.
Back to your question about knowing that you're worth it, it's, you know, it just kind of got to that worth it, just knowing that you're worth being seen and loved. And marriage is, getting divorced is a shit show. It's a mess. I mean, it's a mess. It's hard. It's complicated. You've got everything interwoven.
Yes.
And then you got to untangle all this stuff.
Yes.
And then it's ongoing. And when you get divorced with kids, like, you know, you don't just walk away. Like,
nope.
I got to talk to this guy every single day. Like, this is probably, it's the most important relationship in my life, even though it's not no longer, it's an intimate relationship, even though it's not.
Right. Yeah.
So I have to keep showing up, which is pretty cool. I have to learn. I'm still learning. We're in this to still process our stuff because we have kids. So it is messy and beautiful at the same time.
It is. It is.
But at a certain point, it was knowing that I was worth being seen and loved and held, and not that the things that I loved were a problem. You know, we can end up pathologizing each other.
Right. Oh, easy.
So, yeah. So yeah, I guess at one point, and you know, when I knew it was, also when it became worth it, is my body freaked out. And when, you know, I'm athletic and I work out a lot. And so when my body sends me a message, like you're talking about the car.
Yes.
And it's like, when it finally gets and my body starts yelling at me, that's it. That's it. And
yeah, exactly.
Sometimes it's almost annoying. Yeah. Because if you are so finely tuned, the messages are coming all the time, which is great because your body knows you're going to listen to it because you're connected. You've cultivated that connection.
Yes.
So
such good stuff, Brooke.
Kind of cool.
Very
yeah.
Cool.
What a journey. Are these all the things? We talked about all the things.
Yes, I think so. I see a comment here from Sonia.
Do you still work with, what's Sonia say? Sonia and I have talked about this.
Yeah,
Sonia's
I love the fact
great.
that you let your apprentices teach you and not feel like you are too high and mighty to be taught by younger teachers.
No, it's so, they keep me so fresh, you know, they keep me fresh because they'll see things, and that's kind of the non-attachment. For me to keep my lens fresh, I can't assume like, oh, Johnny's coming in today and we're going to have to work on this knee, or I can't assume anything. So that's a learning. It's just be like, oh, this is who's coming in and I'm going to show up and be present. And I have to work because I've been teaching so long. So I have to make sure I keep that lens clear for myself.
Yes.
But fresh new apprentices are already clear. So they're such a nice reminder. They're raw. They're like, oh, this person and this happened. I'm like, yeah, it did. Yeah. And so they see things and, I don't know, like, you know, it must be why you do these conversations. We can learn so much from each other.
Oh man, we learn so much. Yeah, absolutely.
If you're open to it. And then it's also good. We learn so much from just getting quiet with ourselves. And I think that's, for me, that's writing. I do best then with a blank page in a journal. Like, all right, let me get quiet and see what comes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And in my workout, I can get really quiet in my workout where, yes, on the outside, it looks like, oh, she's doing her advanced reformer. On the inside, it's like, whoo, like sparkly and mossy and rich and watery, and it's like scuba diving, like down in the bottom of the ocean. It's all quiet and bright, and but it's just, oh, you're doing advanced reformer.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah.
You're in a good spot. You're in a really good spot.
Yeah, and not to say it's not painful, and it's like a mess at times, right? Do you have those?
Yes.
You're like, this is like, what am I doing? What am I doing? I could still really can go through that too.
Yes. There are times.
But
yeah.
Yeah.
There are times. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's I love in the work how we do with people and the human connection, and with apprentices, is that we are it's every day is so different. It's unpredictable.
Right.
Even if I'm seeing the same client every week, it's every time they come, they're in a different place. They're in a totally different.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
It's a new story every single time.
Yeah, which is so fun. And I feel that I love about the teaching apprentices too, is we'll go through such different roller coasters, and when things are lighting up or when they're not, like, oh boy, back to the drawing board. What are we going to do now?
Right.
And that's good too. And it's like, all right, retrace your steps. Let's go through this again.
Yep.
Yeah. And I'm excited to do that with more teachers for launching this mentoring program. It just kind of came out. And I just mentioned it, and we didn't even talk about the Pilates Style magazine cover.
I know, right?
Oh
man.
I brought it just in case you needed to see it.
Yes. Yeah. It's pretty hot stuff.
Thanks. I did actually tell them, I was like, please do not Photoshop my hot pink shorts, because I wore hot pink shorts on purpose. I came into my femininity super late. That actually through divorce too, which is kind of interesting.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Growing up in Idaho, it was like, the more tomboy you are, the better.
The cooler you are.
Oh, totally. So it was like late in the game that I was like, I'm wearing earrings, and I'm going to paint my nails, and I'm going to be as girly as I want. I like hot pink shorts. And that was, super liberating to finally touch into all of that.
Of course.
Growing, and especially being a tomboy in an outdoor ski town and an athlete, it's like, the tougher you are, you wear your Carhartts and you drive a truck. I do drive a truck. I've only ever driven trucks. I only ever will drive trucks.
Okay.
However,
I'm wearing pink in my truck now.
Yeah, I'm wearing pink on the cover of Pilates Style magazine. That was fun. I did not plan on really doing that move. I don't really, like I said, I kind of wing it. But when we talked about doing the article, and Bambi working with them at Pilates Style was great. They're like, whatever you want to write about. I was like, oh, I got some ideas. And do a photo shoot. We thought we would do something together if Momentum Fest happened. And then I did this photo shoot with a local guy here. It was so fun. And I knew that I wanted to parallel mat on the article inside. I wanted to parallel mat exercises and chair exercises through the lens of, the Chinese medicine stuff. So there's all these pictures, but like, see that one, I love to party and like Pilates play.
Yes.
And so I had been messing around with this just for fun in the studio. And I was like, hey, I might be able to hold this thing up here. You ready?
Yeah.
And then he's like, whoa.
Yeah, it's impressive.
So it was fun. And then, Pilates Style was great. They even asked, they're like, do you have any other potential cover shots that are less inverted? I was like, no, don't. No. They're all inverted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a landmark issue, right? Because our article in there as well, like the whole racism in the fitness industry article in there as well, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
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 So it's pretty cool.
It's fun. It's exciting. It's a great honor. And I feel also super proud for the fact on the cover, it says the seasons of Pilates when the method meets Chinese medicine.
Yes.
I feel like a celebration for Chinese medicine. Look at that little stage Chinese medicine guy. This is a beautiful thing that's very accessible.
You're a pioneer.
Yeah.
Right.
And my local college reposted it, the Dallas Traditions, the school I went to. It's like, oh, my old acupuncture teachers are like, look, Brooke did it.
Yeah.
So it's a
You
fun
are amazing.
merging. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's really, the Chinese medicine philosophy and that lens that how I teach the movement and teach teachers through it's the 5 element lens. It's like, I didn't invent this wheel. This is what's happening in nature.
Yes.
Water, wood, fire, earth, metal. These are the seasons. We know this intuitively. There are seasons in training, seasons in our development, seasons in how we leave ourselves, grow, die, come back to ourselves, born. This is life. But we can
Yes.
layer
Cycle.
that into our movement, our teaching, our training, our sharing of what we love. So it's fun to play around with that. I feel like I'm always
Yes.
trying to figure out how to explain something like this to people. I'm like, well, that's so watery. That's like the seed. I'm like, what? Yeah, all the
Yes.
potential. What's it like to be the seed? That's you as a beginner Pilates practitioner. You're the seed. Oh,
Yes.
so much is going to come from this place. You just got to germinate.
Yes. Is that all live or is that gonna be like virtual stuff too? Or how if I'm person's just heard you talk for the last hour and a half and like I need to follow her and
Yeah.
they're in Hawaii, what do they do?
Yeah. Okay, well, joining Core Self is the jam. So
Okay.
Classique is my studio, and you can come to workshops. And this is where I was talking about like the interweaving of it all is like, it's so fun. I have Core Self members and I know them through Core Self, and they pay their $38 a month. You get all these workouts from me, you get fresh stuff, you get a nurturing relationship, and then you can come into the studio and come do a workshop if you want. And so
Yeah.
to play with me more, you join Core Self, and then you get this website that has workouts in the seasonal sections. So here's a bunch of water workouts. We're going to do the fundamentals. Here's a bunch of
Okay.
wood workouts. We're going to grow and get stronger and take up space. Like the wood is the
Nice.
spring, right? So, okay, now we're going to
Yes.
do more side kicks, more side sit-ups. We're going to twist. We're going to bend. We've got to have our
Yes.
strength and ease both. Oh, then we're
Mm-hmm.
going to do fire. We're going to do upside down. Let's do handstands. Let's do back bend. Let's sweat like crazy. So
Yes.
there are all these workouts with me that are basically like energetically categorized in alignment with the 5 elements. So we're going through classical Pilates. I'm not making up exercises. This is like, but it all has like a flavor or a lens or a tone or a different kind
Yes.
of tempo. And so
Yeah.
that's really fun. So then you get to work out with me all the time. And those members get to do lives. We have one live a month just for the members. So then you get
Okay.
to see me on the screen and I get to see you this big and talk to you
Yeah.
about give you form tips. But I'm launching this, and the website is there in that Pilates Style magazine and in all my bios, but it's Return as the mentoring training program. And
Okay.
there's an
Yes.
application there on the website, and that's for teachers that have as a classical teacher, I don't feel attached that I can only work with classical people, previously trained classical.
Previously trained classical. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's more of you have to just want to learn and grow and be willing to have the mindset of, okay, I'm open to seeing things from a new way, and I have some grit. I can work hard. I'm willing to get in and dive in. And it's not about
Yes.
getting a certificate. It's just, okay, let's work together for 10
Yeah.
months.
And
And we're
just
going
get
to have
better.
this.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm going to mentor you. And I'm going to give you based on how you want to grow. Let's say you have goals. So this is about you, and I'm going to help you. I'm going to teach you some of this lens of this 5 element because it's going to empower you in your workout and in your
Yes.
teaching.
Right.
But what do you want to get? How do you want to grow? And then I'll meet you and then help you level up in whatever that means to you.
Yes.
So that's the mentoring program, and it's coming together. I'm building the website in the background that has some really good, rich content in there. That's just fuels for. It lets people learn without ever coming to the studio if they can't or are in France
Accessibility.
or
Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, Corona's opened us up, and now we're just working around the world,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
fun. So
Speaking of
those are ways.
fun,
Yes.
yeah. This has been super fun.
Oh, good.
I was like, let's do another half an hour. Now we're like 3 minutes over that half hour. I'm still good, but at the same time, we should just keep this conversation going another time here too.
We can do it again.
Always learn. I'm just reading some of the comments here. Yes, the last one was always learning. So amazing.
It's so there's so many familiar faces. Oh yes. I love it is a unique place, Instagram, isn't it?
It is.
There are some valuable connections, and then oh my gosh, have you watched the Social Dilemma?
Not yet.
Woo!
Yes.
Okay, guess what happened? After I watched the Social Dilemma, I bought myself a watch. It's like, I got to get off my phone somehow, and I was using my phone as my watch. Like, I got to walk my dog and have my phone with me. And then suddenly I'm like, get quiet. So I bought a watch, and now I'm going to try to, yes. You got to watch that thing. It's eye-opening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Very good.
Oh, Iram, it was my apprentice. She said, we're so lucky to have Brooke as our teacher. I love these ladies. They have shown some grit.
Yeah.
We've kept learning through Corona. It's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did Zoom classes, and
Any guys in your program?
No, I would love that. I always hope I train the Asheville High baseball team.
Cool.
And there's one guy that I trained through his whole high school career into college. Now he's graduated college, and I'm still like, Devin, when are you going to train with me to be a teacher? He's like, I don't know, Brooke. I might take this banking job. I'm like, whatever. Get in here. So I would love to. It just hasn't manifested yet, but I'm pretty good at manifesting things. So
yeah.
I'm working on Devin slowly as my first.
Well, Devin, if you're out there, you've been called out.
Come on. Yeah, totally. It's really fun. It's training teachers. There's so much growth. And then I see them really shift even the ways that they have relationships in their lives. It's it's rich. And I only really ever train, I usually have a class of 2, and it takes them almost 2 years.
Wow.
For training with me. Oh yes. I mean, and it's expensive, and it takes time, and it takes a lot of time each week, and it is magic. So.
Yes.
But I'm not into pumping them out. It's like, we're going to really,
Yeah, they're going to have depth and substance. They're not going to just be like.
And that's the model that feels great for me.
Conveyor belts.
Yeah. Yes. Yep.
Yeah. No, I hear
there
you.
are other. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
This has been such a rich conversation, Brooke. Honestly, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, you're welcome. It was fun. And good job to you, because you do lots of talking. How do you talk to all these people?
I still listening to people. Like, I just like that. You know what I mean? Like, this guy said the other day, this talk I was listening to, he said, as we get older, we have less answers and better questions.
Ooh, I like that.
And I feel like that's it. Like, the more I do this, the better questions I have, because I just want to hear people's stories. I want to see how these stories are woven together to basically highlight who you are. Like, you know, we didn't talk very much about, core self and all those things, as much as we just talked about who you are. If someone watches this, I mean, we could have talked, about your philosophy and your business coach and all these different things, or we could talk about the woman behind the brand, and that resonates and that draws people in as much as if we talked, the core philosophy of your business.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And then it's all, like I was saying at the beginning, it's all very integrated. So yes.
Totally integrated.
How I show up in the world is not different than how I show up as an entrepreneur and as someone who writes. You could probably guess all my mission statements and vision statements just from what we've talked about. There it is.
Totally.
It's all out there. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, which is exciting, because then you're drawing in people who really who resonate and work with you. And you mentioned something earlier too about when clients go to other people, is that that is an important thing to understand in yourself, in the self-worth conversation too, is I can't be all things to all people, and I am not a match for some people, and that is okay, because I am for others.
Yes.
And if a client says, you're not the teacher for me. Okay, good. I want you to find the teacher that works for you.
Yes,
Or
absolutely.
acupuncture patients, same. We share acupuncture patients. And if someone goes to somebody else and is like, I want to keep working with that person, great. Because I want you to do whatever helps you do you. And
Yeah. And you're still
yeah, so
accomplishing your personal mission by handing them off so that person feels better. Like you're
yes,
still,
because it's not about me.
it's not about you. Yeah, it's not about
No,
me.
just like if I teach you a great workout and you have the best workout ever. We did the reformer, we did all these fun things on the ladder barrel, but you did it. It's not me. You did it.
Yeah, right.
So me being
Yeah,
a good teacher is because you own this stuff and you light yourself up.
exactly, exactly.
So
If you get a chance, like by the time I like edit this and put it all together, listen to it again. I haven't said this to
oh,
anybody, but I'm gonna tell you, like,
listen to myself.
listen to yourself. You'll feel so good about how awesome
Oh,
you actually are. Really,
thanks,
people don't like
Martin.
hearing their own voice. They don't like hearing it, but like sit down, listen to it. Like you'll be like, I got
I
myself
don't mind too
together.
much.
Like,
Oh, that's sweet. I don't
yeah,
mind too much. It's
yeah,
funny when I actually edit my own videos, like my workout videos.
yeah.
It's got to be ridiculous. If you were to walk in the room, I'm like just trimming them,
Yes.
uh, and I'm like smiling with myself, working out. Like that looks like a fun one. Good
Yeah.
one, Brooke. I love that move.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. It's good.
Funny.
Yeah.
But
Listen to it again.
thank you for
Yeah.
reflecting that, because that's also a funny thing, especially with Corona too, about being single, is like, or with my kids, like I don't get myself reflected back to myself very often. So
Mm.
also thank you for saying so.